my finger hit the off button. Great. But I'll do some splicing. I'll put this down and so I could splice in the R1234YF gauges. These are being tested now in video number 1. I'll have to tell them to go to video number 2 for the R1234YF testing, performance testing. How is this review? $59. I bought these. They were not given to me. I do not put links to them because I am not affiliated with any sales. This is just to let somebody know who wants a good cheap pair of gauges that may not be so good. So since I don't have a tripod, I will sit this down. And I will tell you that the quality of these hoses does not feel good. Definitely does not feel like Yellow Jacket. Cheap, thin, hard. And if you watched the video 1 of this series, before my phone, I hit the button to turn it off, you will see that the first gauge, which was this, for $21 on eBay, failed. And these gauges I will be giving away probably at one of the colleges, like I rolled those. And if there's any problems with them, I will see if I could fix them first before I give them away. Because our local automotive colleges and commercial HVAC colleges kind of lack funding. And the students sometimes cannot afford to buy a set of gauges that are required in the class. So I will give them away after I perform these tests. So this is for the YF. So this will be automotive only. This is definitely not used in commercial. Commercial uses the old R22 that got phased out in the year 2010. And commercial went to R410, which at this temperature right now in my room of say 70 degrees would be, roughly 200 psi or something like that. This kit for $59 came with the set of 1234 fittings. And these have those same funky white hard plastic cheap seals that fail. So we already know that from the first video. Go back and watch the first video on these. This is the second video. Okay, those are nice and tight. Second one. Tight. Open both valves. Open, open. And if you have watched the first video on these set of gauges that failed, we're about to do these. If you haven't watched the first video, I explained the difference between manufacturers. So here's Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket, yeah, these are about 90 bucks, sometimes more, 100 and something, depending on where you find them. That's a good set of hoses that I've been using for over 40 years now, since I was a kid with my father, starting at the age of 12. Then this is a newer company that just came into being a couple decades ago. I call them new, and they're okay for I think $70. Actually, this is the expensive one because it has the 3/8 inch hose for 4-volt manifolds. So this is a more expensive kit. You could look at the part number right there. That's the part number. And you could look at the part number for this yellow jacket. So you could look up the prices yourself on eBay and Amazon if you want to know what they are. This is what I recommend. This is actually what I recommend, but if you wanted a slightly cheaper version, then you can get the JDs. And if you go back to the first video, I explain more about the different manufacturers. These are all being rebuilt. It's winter time. It's just started raining this week in San Francisco. So it's the end of the year, and it's my end of the year for air conditioning guys. Every one of these are going to be torn down and rebuilt. I'll scavenge what parts, and I started out with 13 of these brute ones, and I'm just down to a couple of them. And over the years I've been dwindling them down. I explained in the first video how poor quality some of these ones that you get from tool shops and tool trucks are. Masterful failed miserably. My old Tiffs are still good, and those are from like 1987. Uni-weld or Unispot or whatever they're called, absolute garbage. Oh, I didn't go down here. One of the biggest pieces of crap that I was very disappointed in. Absolutely garbage. This is CPS. They make some good products, like the scales, some of their newer scales. This particular product they were pushing inside the commercial refrigerant supply houses. So, right off the bat, the hoses that came with it leaked within about 2 weeks of use. And where they leaked, these are them right here. They actually leaked, I think these were them. They leak at these fittings that are permanent and you cannot replace. And these are very expensive hoses because they come with these on-off things. So they actually leaked right at the valve seal inside the on-off. That happened 1, 2, 3 in a row within about a month. They leaked at these fittings in here, vacuum leak. They could not hold high pressure at 600 psi. They leaked under deep vacuum. When I tried to go under 500 microns, they leaked. So that was a fail. Highly recommend. Now, these were made in China. The company was called Lux. Before these were made in China. These are the USA made ones. The mother company was called Lux, L-U-X. They would rebrand and sell gauges around the world to different companies and put a sticker on them, whatever you wanted. And CPS used to sell Lux. And they were made in China, and they were okay quality for Chinese made. Definitely better than the US made. Then they go, the US people want US made products. Let's build something in the USA. Well, we know we lost all our manufacturing and our good labor. And so this is what they came at it. It's heavy, so that must mean quality. Not in this case. The machining is not so great. The seals are not so great. It looks great, and that was it. 1 month use, and it was garbage time. Here's one of my old roots. And go back to my video number 1, and I'll explain more about the groups. But you have to see the video just prior to this. So let's get back to this. We're all connected. We are now going to draw a vacuum. We're at 0. So let's go to 0 and hook up our hose. And since I know those white seals are really bad and you can't do it with your hand to seal really well because they're such garbage, I will give them the nice tool treatment with a little extra squeeze because they are such garbage. And let's turn back on our gauges. And we're at under 80 microns. We're going through the silicone hose to the 12 CFM pump that's capable of going down to 3 microns. And you read vacuum in microns, not inches. Since there's no education in the automotive field and it's not required, they don't know that. But this is something you have to learn. So here we go. We're at 0. We are turning on the vacuum. There, I just turned on the vacuum. And this one, unlike this one, is actually sealing right now at the seals. So all these seals are actually working, because if they were not, I would not be able to get down to 400 microns, 395 microns. So this $59 set right off the bat is better than this $21 set. And sticking, we are almost look like, we could almost say that's a 29. We're a little past 29. We're down to 300 microns. So now let's turn off the vacuum to these. So now I'm going to turn off my vacuum supply. And instantly we're jumping back up. Now if there's not a leak, this will, yeah, it's not stopping before 200, but say 3,500 or so, it will stop. Oh, it's still going now. 5,000 microns, 6,000 microns. But if you see here, you're still at 29. You cannot see that leak on the gauge. 29.9, and it stopped right about there. And if we come back to our gauge set, we're at 29. These brand new hoses and everything are so saturated with moisture, and probably a little leakage. It could come through here. Your leakage could come from these threads right here. They could come from inside cheap gauges. These shafts have seals on them. Leakage could come from these. So you could have leaks there. And we come back over and we're still at 29.9. But we failed the vacuum test because we could not hold it down below 500 microns. So let's turn back on the vacuum, get it back down. There's a lot of moisture inside these hoses, real cheap. And we're gonna do pressure test. So let's turn off the vacuum source. And now we're gonna turn on our 250 PSI of dry nitrogen, which we'll see the pressure here on the high side once I open it up. And so we're still in the 29 vacuum. And now you're gonna watch this jump up. Open up the pressure. 255, 256 PSI. We come back to our gauge set. And we are at 210, 20, 30, 40, 50, almost 60. So on our high side it says almost 260. We definitely pegged it over here, which these gauges don't go up as far on the low side, which is bad for the gauge. I'll have to recalibrate it. 259, 258. So now I'll shut off the pressure, fill the pressure to the gauges. Turn it back on. Just trying to get the light back up. There it goes. So 259 and holding. These gauges passed. These gauges failed. So that means we don't have no leaks coming through our stems. That seal inside here. And they actually hold. I could move the valve and close them off and open them up, and we are still at 259. So fail for vacuum, pass for pressure. Fail for vacuum, fail for pressure. Is that $21 eBay, $59 eBay. But these are not for R1234. These are for R1234. And so that is it for those. Now, you can also read this. Here's the app. I did not go over this on video number 1, but you can actually see the 259 psi. This is connected through Bluetooth to your set of refrigerant gauges. So you can actually read what pressure you have, and you can read the bleed down. It also has many other features. This is for hooking up to temperature sensors, humidity sensors, pressure sensors, refrigerant line pressure sensors. This is a sound decimal meter. You also have manometers in here, refrigerant transducers. Actually, there's really no reason you don't actually need gauges anymore. Gauges are becoming a thing of the past. They won't be needed. I actually, in some of my other videos, you see I don't use gauges in some applications. I go strictly one hose, and I just use transducer sensors and temperature sensors. We have small things like this. So this has a humidity sensor in it. Hot air. This one is the hot air one. This is the hot air anemometer. This is for doing heat load calculations, seeing how many BTUs your vehicle is actually producing for the air conditioning. I think the vane anemometer. So if you do a lot of the same vehicle, you keep a data log and you actually write down what every vehicle does. You can actually read, see how much that spins. You can actually read and record every vehicle you do to prove what the airflow is out of there, and you can see the difference between cabin air filters. When you have a plugged cabin air filter, sometimes you won't feel it by hand, but it'll give poor cooling performance. And so you can actually swap out and prove to your customers by data logging it and actually logging the before and after and showing. Now, if your customer went to another shop, and I hate to say this, but if you're another shop or a technician listening, this is what I use to prove to my customer what the shop before me did not do. I bust them every time. Didn't change the cabin air filter. I can actually take the compression ratio of with the software in here, temperature sensors, pressure transducer. I can give you the BTU output of a vehicle. Let's go over the vacuum. Evacuation. Okay, so this is the evacuation mode. And we can see my suction line is still at 29. I never opened up. I'm at almost 260 over there. Actually, it dropped a little. So there is a small leak in these gauges. Very small. But there is small enough. And if you just spent anywhere from 7 to 20 some hours putting in a evaporator, pulling out the dash, you want to know if you have a small leak. This did not drop or move at all. It's still exactly where it was. Has not budged. But this has dropped several tenths of a PSI already. And it just dropped again. It's borderline. It's about to drop. So there is a very small leak in here. And if there was not a leak in here and you just did a 7 to 20 hour evaporator job on a customer, and you're going to charge them $2,000 or $3,000 for doing that, and you had a small leak like that, what's going to come back into your shop with an upset customer in a couple months? Because you couldn't find it before you charged it up with refrigerant. You know the price of R1234 refrigerant. You're usually selling it to your customer at this time around $150 a pound, and it's not just a refrigerant, Mr. Customer, if you're watching. It is the price of all the equipment and the training and tools that go behind it. It's the only reasons like shops have to charge so much. The new refrigerant is semi-flammable. There's some cost incurred there. So this gauge set would fail. I would not use this to do like an hour or several hour long pressure drop test. That's where these gauges from Fieldpiece work really good, or Testo. Then getting into later on, I'm going to do a video on leak detectors. over the years, I've had dozens of leak detectors, and this is only a very small sample of what I have and what I've had and thrown away. TIF is garbage when it comes to leak detectors. Yokogawa, Bacharach, as they're known now. Good leak detector. This was good until it broke, but they stopped making it and won't repair it no more. An old Bacharach, yeah, okay, that's about okay. The Prowler was much better. This is like $300 something, $400. When they first came out, they were even more. My recommendation for refrigerant leak detectors: only buy refrigerant leak detectors usually, or at least one that comes with a calibration bottle in it. This has a refrigerant in it with a small hole that is calibrated to actually test your sensors. If you can't test them, cracking a bottle and putting the sensor up to the refrigerant is not testing. That doesn't mean it's going to find a small leak. These always fail. These are H10s. These are been the best refrigerant analyzer, and sometimes I go through many of them and have to service them at the end of the year. These are anywhere from like $530 to $600 each. And as you see, I have quite a few of them. This is the older style H10 that uses electricity. You have to plug it in the wall. My dad's original one from back in the 70s was $1,500. And these also come with refrigerant leak vials for testing, calibration, calibrated reference bottle. No calibration reference bottle, I don't care who you are, I don't want your product, unless I already have one that I could use your product on. But getting back to gauges, I dropped another 10th. So, okay for $59. But I know these wear out. I already know this because I know some shops who bought these already. They've used them on about a dozen cars before they started leaking at the seals right here. They started leaking at the white seals that they have in here, and some of them started leaking where you turn this. There's a shaft inside of here, and it seals. They actually leak from within the head and up through the handle inside here. And you might be doing a vacuum leak test or a pressure leak test, and it actually leaks, and you fail your vacuum test because they leak inside the shaft that runs up inside down here from out here, and you lose vacuum and you don't know it. So that fails after a while. Same with these. They start leaking at the little seals here. They have a 4-fit. These are for 134. They leak right there. After a month or two, I already know, because I've known some shops who already bought these. So I already knew what was going to be up, but I purchased them anyway. These were garbage right away. Very good hoses. They don't make these old things anymore, but I haven't used analog in about 15 years anyway. These I got back in the very early 90s, so that's how old these are, and they still work. And I just go through them, change all the seals, all the mechanical working, and I test all of them against these set of gauges and another micron meter to make sure they pass pressure test, they pass vacuum test. Once they pass that, then they go back out for use on my vehicle or in the shop for refrigerant recoveries, or I use them for recovering burnt out compressors that have a lot of metal contamination in the oil, and I'm going to suck dirty metal through my cheap gauges, and I'll use the ones that don't pass so much for recovery. But I think we're done enough on this video. Oh, getting back to testing, if you see my other videos where I used all my Fieldpiece sensors, which is identical to this. This is my testo set. I have a Fieldpiece set, because if you're in a busy shop, or if you're doing several vehicles at one time and you're running tests, the software interferes. If you have two set of Fieldpiece, say, the software in one phone or piece of equipment, it interferes with each other. They have a problem. So by having two different manufacturers, one Fieldpiece with all their gauges and test sensors, and one testo, you can run two pieces of software simultaneously and they don't interfere with each other. So that's why and plus you have backup. If anything dies on one of your Fieldpiece or anything dies on your Testo, you can grab one from the other one, and instead of using their factory software, that's say Testo software or Fieldpiece software, you go get the MeasureQuick software. You use the MeasureQuick software and it could link up to anybody's equipment. So MeasureQuick will, you could do electrical tests. So this one actually data logs your electrical. So Bluetooth from your amp meter or your voltmeter, power, quality, watts, power, kilowatts. And so this is good for, three-phase high voltage and stuff like that. If you want to check inverters or power to a compressor, this does that. And you can actually watch it and data log it, and it will actually graph it over time. That's what this one is for. And then you could go to your weight scale. So this hooks up to a scale, and you can actually read it and calibrate. And all this stuff can be stored and sent to your customer. This is really excellent for testing a vehicle when it comes into a shop to prove to your customer everything that is wrong. You notate it, you write it down, you print it out or PDF or whatever as a file and send it with the work order. You get your authorization for work. You do all your repairs and you repeat, and then you can show them the difference of the temperatures and pressures and everything and explain everything. And to cover your ass, if someone else touches their vehicle or they try to put in a can or something electrically fails or something goes out and they say, oh well, it never worked when it left your shop and it never worked right after it left your shop, you will have live data with live refrigerant gauges and pressure gauges and temperature gauges on the vehicle that you can record at the instant the customer walks into the shop, and you can show them that. And that will be a printout that you put with your invoice to the customer. So if you ever have, and I know everybody's had one or two of those customers or more, depending on your locality, you have black and white evidence that you can win in any court that if you have a problem, and you can show your before and after. Very few shops do that, and now you have the tools to do that, to show your customers what you've done before and after, including a refrigerant identifier. There's a lot of you shops who don't have refrigerant identifiers, and you go through your recovery machines and then squirt it back into many customers. I find dirty refrigerant, I do a printout, hand it to my customer, and tell my customer to go back to you if you're the shop to get their money back because you've been busted. Because I have a refrigerant identifier, you don't. I have the equipment to record and show the customer it was recharged wrong because somebody used the cans or they went by pressures. You don't. I win, customers getting their money back from you. And if they want to go to the Better Business Bureau or the Bureau of Automotive Repair or whatever state you're watching this in, I've just armed the customer with the black and white data recorded right off their vehicle of what you did before I put my hands on it. I don't even connect to it. I just take readings off of sensors, and then immediately I prove to them it's contaminated refrigerant, it wasn't charged right. Then I do it properly, and I'm able to record and give these copies to the customer so he goes back to whatever shop to get a full refund. So if you don't want to be that shop who gets busted, or if you want to have somebody who records their data before and after, this is the equipment you use. If you want Joe Blow, who uses the cans from a big auto parts, and he's shaking his can like he's shaking something else, and he says, oh yeah, I could fill your system by pressure or by temperatures, yeah, that's all I gotta say. So that's it for now. Unedited, lots of mistakes, dropping the camera. That's it. Signing off. And get your Fieldpiece equipment, get your Testo equipment, download your data, download the apps, get your Testo gauges or get your Fieldpiece gauges, and you will be a whole generation ahead of everybody else. Especially for the upcoming car, we have heat pumps now. 2018 Prius Prime heat pumps. If you do not know how to diagnose a heat pump, and the Teslas, with you're using water and refrigerant for cooling and heating different things, this is where these clamp-on gauges come on. You guys haven't worked on, I've already been working on the Teslas after accidents. When you want to know there's something wrong with the refrigerant flow or water flow going down the pipes, because the three-way valves, they have like 3 different three-way valves, 3 different pumps, cooling different things. You can actually data log the path of the coolant, the hot coolant and the cool coolant. Coolant going to in and out inverters, cooling going in and out of battery packs. With this software and these gauges that are Bluetooth, you can test and record all that, give it to your customer, and do your own diagnosis instead of guessing. Tesla doesn't have to release their information to you. If you know enough what you're doing with the right equipment and the gray matter between your ears and a little knowledge, you don't need their data. You can repair it yourself. That's it for now. Catch you on the next video.